Tonight, a decades-long search and a promise to a family leads to a tragic discovery in Fort Bend County.
Yeah, in a story you only see on KHOU 11, the family now getting answers and closure. Maria Aguilera has their remarkable story. Maria?
Len and Mia, learning about this family's story, we were blown away by their search for answers and their journey that led them to getting much needed closure, which all started with a promise made many years ago.
A final resting place. At this Rosenberg cemetery, for decades, 4 graves unmarked.
It was completely covered with debris.
In December, Detective Eli Cisneros received a call from a woman in Florida.
She provided me a story of a missing uncle, or an uncle whom she had never met, but that she had received some information from her mother.
He works the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office Cold Case Unit. The woman who called him was Jessica Garcia, with limited information.
And I started going ahead and Googling and calling all different agencies.
2 years ago, she began her search.
I promised, like around when I was 8 years old, I told my mom, "Oh, Mom, I'll find out one day, I'll be rich and I'll get a PI and find out."
A promise she kept. It wasn't until she contacted Detective Cisneros that she would begin to find out the truth.
I let her know, listen, I'm going to do everything that I possibly can, but I cannot make any promises to you.
Her uncle and 2 relatives arrived in the U.S. from El Salvador in 1982 with a friend. Later, their family received word they had been killed, but had no other details. That's when Detective Cisneros stepped in, determined to uncover whether a criminal investigation ever took place.
A sufficient investigation was done on that case, and there were multiple arrests made.
The men were brought to the U.S. by a group of human smugglers.
Little did they know that they were dealing with a gang.
According to Cisneros' investigation, the men were witnesses to a murder involving the gang members.
So some of the gang members transport those 4 members, which are my victims, back here to the Fort Bend County area near the Brazos River, and all 4 of them were murdered here.
He found some answers, but not their graves. Calls led from the county to the medical examiner, a funeral home, and a grave digger, finally revealing unmarked graves at the Rosenberg Cemetery. After more research, he identified 2 of the 4 names.
And with that data, I was able to finally pinpoint the 4 graves.
Keeping his word.
It brought me great pleasure to finally notify the family.
Keeping her promise.
The promise was for my mother, but I'm happy that I was able to provide for full circle for everybody else in the family.
Misael Turcios, Ramon Turcios, Jose Dionisio Guzman, and Pablo Flores were found. Family visited in January after 42 years of uncertainty.
Now we know that all 4 are resting in peace, and now family members are aware, and we can go ahead and continue to honor them.
For too long, they were unclaimed burials.
This is what we provided the family.
Their families can now find peace, knowing where their loved ones were laid to rest.
Closure, finally. Maria, you mentioned the family does not live here in the area. Do they have any plans to come back soon?
Yeah, actually are planning on coming back this summer. Family from Florida and El Salvador will be back to the area, and they're going to place an official headstone with all 4 of their names and host a ceremony to honor them.
It's amazing all the time that went by. The detective was able to figure out what happened and then find where the bodies were.
All in the span of a month, he did that.
Unbelievable.
I just can't even imagine.
What a
Great
story.
detective work on his behalf.
Thanks for sharing.